रेशो 4:3 आहे. जर काय करायचं रेशो चेंज करायचं आहे की नको करू तिथे चेक नाही राहू दे तू स्लाइड होत आहेत आरामात चेंज ओपन तर झाले आता आपल्याकडे ठीक आहे मला वाटतं चालेल काय याचं कॉन्फिगरेशन i3 आहे चालतंय हा i5 आहे अटकतोय त्याच्यामध्ये लोड जास्त आलं कमी आहे जास्त लोड नाही बघूया अजून एकदा ट्राय हे करायला लागेल कारण काही हे स्लाइड आहेत ना हेवी आहेत एकदा रन झाले ना की मग ते परत हे होत राहतात मोल्डर आपल्याकडे आता कॉपी आहे आता काहीकांचं कसं हे जे इमेजच्या फाईल आहेत ना ते त्यांच्या ग्राफिक्सच्या त्यांनी सॉलिड हेवी असतात त्यामुळे त्याला हे वेळ लागतो डिटेल वगैरे जेवढं जास्त आहे ना वेळ लागतो काही स्लाइड मेहनत पण आहे ना याच्यामध्ये काम केलं त्यामुळे ते हेवी आहेत एलईडी वर बसल्या काही बारीक आउटलाइटिंग दिसणार आउटलाईन दिसणार नाही पण हे असं ते एवढं डिटेल मध्ये नाही बघणार आहे काही सेकंद हार्डली 2 सेकंद एखाद्याचा राहील हा
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the final day of Kamla Navina Memorial Lecture Series and the third lecture by Sahej Rahal. Sahej Rahal is a storyteller who leads the in fact and fiction to create counter-mythologies that interrogate narratives shaping the present. Rahal's myth world takes the shape of sculptures, performances, films, paintings, installations, video games, and AI programs that he creates by drawing upon sources ranging from local legends to science fiction, rendering scenarios where intermediate beings emerge from the cracks in our civilization. His participation in group and solo exhibitions includes the Gwangju Biennale, the Liverpool Biennale, the Kochi Biennale, the Vancouver Biennale, Mangrove Museum, Rome, Kadist SF, and CCA Glasgow. His AI simulations have been exhibited as a part of the World-Building Exhibition organized by the Hans Ulrich Obrist as the Julia Stoschek Foundation, ACCA Melbourne, Akademie Der Künste, Berlin. He is the recipient of the Cove Park Henry Moore Fellowship, Akademie Schloss Solitude Fellowship, the Sher-Gil Sundaram Arts Foundation Installation Art Grant, the Digital Earth Fellowship, and the first Human Machine Fellowship organized by Junge Akademie ADK.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Everyone at Twitter is always an honor to be here. And honestly, like looking at all the work yesterday, the particular units, first I got a crash course in architecture, which was amazing. It's never interactive, like at large with that way of viewing the world. So that was really, that's something I got. It was really nice. And yeah, today I'm going to show you some of the things that toys that I picked. And these are all toys, AI simulations, programs, games, whatever. Excuses for me to tell the stories. Last week. Yeah. Okay, so the talk today is called hosting machines. And I'm sure all of you have interacted with machine caught in some shape or form. Can we turn off the lights?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We don't need lights, right?
Thanks. Okay, so we've encountered machine thought, artificial intelligence in some shape or form in our daily lives, whether it's through Google Maps or through these matchmaking apps like Tinder, these apps like tell you that they're going to use these algorithms, these range that are going to somehow find you the perfect route from from your house to Qatar, or these matchmaking apps that will promise you the perfect partner. And there's this idea of perfection and efficiency that's kind of built into them, right? Like, what does this do to the idea of intelligence itself? Right? It creates this causal link between thought and action, that everything you do needs to amount to something, needs to be productive, right? But then intelligence or thought, like, I'm sure anyone who's ever had like a creative idea or crazy idea doesn't know where our thoughts come from. In fact, even cognitive scientists don't know. This is like the last frontier of neuroscience as well. We don't know where this strange thing, this operating system within our minds of consciousness comes from. But we can speculate. Okay, so now just coming back to the idea of intelligence itself. What I'd like to speculate with you about is, what if you think of intelligence as a game? And like every game, there's rules, right? Constraints. Now, the game intelligence of thought is a game that is measured against the constraint of freedom. अच्छा, यहाँ पे freedom को क्या बोलते हैं, किसी को मालूम है क्या? जरा जोर से बोलो भाई, जोर से। आजादी। खाना नहीं खाया क्या? एक बार फिर से। आजादी। अच्छा, आजादी। Okay, so freedom, आजादी, is the measure with which we play this game, right? When the constraint on freedom is high, intelligence is low, and when the constraint on freedom is less, intelligence begins to flow, right? Where the mind is without fear and analytical high, you will be able to think clearly, right? Now, coming back to this thing, can we turn off the light? Thank you. Okay, so intelligence. Right. We were speaking about constraints, right? Like, and constraints in Hindi are called had, right? To cross a limit, to cross a constraint is bega, right? Now, there's this 15th century poet, sci-fi author called Kabir, who said, "हद हद करते सब गए, बेहद गए न सोए, अनहद के मैदान में रहा कबीरा सोए." What does this mean? Limits are always cheaper, constraints are always cheaper, yet they dare not cross them. I, Kabir, shall meet you on the playground beyond those limits. Anhad ke maidan mein, right? What you're looking at right now is anhad.exe. It's an AI program. And the way it was designed was using a video game programming engine called Unreal. If you haven't picked it up right now, this strange tree-like creature is shaking, tottering about every time I click on it. That's because it's listening. The computer here is picking up audio feedback, and then that is being fed into this creature that's kind of like trying to recalibrate the way it's moving. I haven't set the constraints, the limits on my mic right now, so you're only seeing it like kind of jiggle about like that. But right, if we just come back to the idea of limits, and the role of art in crossing those limits, right? There's a Sikh poet, was the Sikh poet. He was part of the radical left movement at one point. His name is Harendra Singh Mehboob. And Mehboob said, Mehboob was a bit of a sci-fi author himself. So what he said was, Utte Raga, right? Before the world that we find ourselves in today, right now, there is a song, there is music. There is a song that's stretching across the entire continuum of space and time, resonating through every aspect of being, right? And then men, specifically men, have separated themselves from the song by naming things, right? By naming, I am man, this is word, this is air, this is auditorium. We separate ourselves from the world. And in those separations, those names, we distance ourselves, not just from the words, but from ourselves as well. Right, now coming back to artificial intelligence, I'm sure everyone's used ChatGPT to write love letters to their partners. If you haven't, you should try it. With ChatGPT and with these language learning models that we created, LLMs, we have separated language from thought as well, like, where language can now produce itself, right? This is somehow the final separation. And then the task of art that Mehboob talks about, and all art, including architecture, is to return to that song. Mehboob says that birds remember the song because they know their dead of being muted. And the morning call of the bird, when they all start singing together in harmony, is actually a roll call. They are saying, hey, I made it through the night, I wasn't eaten, I wasn't, I didn't get caught in like an things like that. I'm alive, I'm here. When we speak, each word that we say to each other as well is a reaction, is reaffirming the fact that like we are alive, we are here. And you shout Azadi, you say that you are free. Right. Now, how does one use these strange machines that we have created for some reason to separate ourselves from the world, from ourselves, from the world that we inhabit? How does one return to that song in some way, right? happening here is that while I'm speaking, while people were shifting around the chairs, talking, that little thing that you hear in a speaker, all of this sound, every shift in the air, the AI program is picking up and then turning it into song, right? Which was sung by my friend Neil, who's in the Southern classical trainer, trained in the Maharashtra. And what we did was like she sang this large, like long kind of 20-minute sort of, abstracted version of rap therapy. I was getting to it, but what I did was I cut off the song and then attached parts of the song to triggers within this word. And then what happens is that each time the teacher sings, like it picks up sound, it starts singing back. Okay, with this, and it kind of starts rearranging those pieces of those mukhadas, right, to create like an infinite song. Why I say infinite is like, if you were to imagine that human civilization were to end tomorrow or right now, and someone just forgot to turn the program off, Unheard.exe would continue to listen and sing back till the last sounds of the universe are heard, right? Okay, so this was Unheard. This was last year. And then I'll show you a video. So okay, so this is it's called DMT, like the drug, or distributed mind test, or democratic machine trial, or dreaming monsters tonight, or Dil Mera Okay, so you're going to get part of the game right now because it's actually a multiplayer game. The way it works is you can have 8 people playing together with one of these controllers, and everyone is controlling this feature, right? Like, so if you and I were playing together and you decide to move forward and I move right, the feature would kind of potter about. Just to give you a sense, like, you're moving forward on my controller, and then on the keyboard I start moving left, right? So it starts kind of doing like weird dance. Okay, now this feature is sort of inhabiting this strange kind of place. It could be somewhere in Hungary or somewhere in Eastern Europe, hard to tell. And then there are these boxes that have been left behind by someone that contain these memories.
1989. The Cold War strikes one note begins. Beneath the crumbling curtains of iron that draped the 20th century, a new world is born. The apocalyptic offspring of a planet split at the seams of the Berlin Wall. A world of firsts arrives in birth pangs that announce the end of the kingdom. It's walking in life and networking.
Okay, so it's got these stories that you get to find, and now the creature has a few abilities, right? Like, so for example, you can set up this like echolocation that points to elements in the game world that you can kind of look for, find, and like kind of explore. Then there are these creatures, aquatic beings that have somehow learned to live outside of water. Maybe because the place started running out of water. And then okay, so like there's more abilities, like there's this yeah, so like you can sprint. Now there's no UI, like there's no like health bar, stamina bar that's kind of telling you how much sort of stamina you have. If you listen, like it starts making these sounds. So you have to kind of pay attention to what the creature can or can't do at any time. So and then it makes that little like squeaky sound. Okay, then there's this like lamp that the creature has, which kind of reveals drawings that are in the world. There's like a family portrait. And then, oh, should I show you a spoiler? Okay. So there's one thing that you have to do in the game. And the story that you sort of encounter is about like, like you can see there's no humans in the world. The story that you encounter is about how humanity vanished. And kind of traces that like vanishing of humankind to the birth of neoliberal capitalism, which kind of began during the end of the Cold War. Okay. 1996, but like that's the date. Anyway. Right. So you see that you're looking on the other side, right? Saw that. Right. So now this world has these like strange gates that they're portals, and when you go through the portal, there are these other creatures that kind of get out. And you can move with them. But then now if I want to just kind of move back through that portal, yeah, over there. Saw that, right? So it's on this different plane of reality itself. Now you can hear that like weird gulping sound, right? Can you hear it? Okay. That's because there's a strange thing, like if you look right on top. Yeah, there's a strange creature over there.
1996. Stranded in the sands of the Sahara, the archaeologist Ali Baraka chanced upon a strange pebble. Baraka's discovery had been entirely accidental, deep within southwest Egypt, where an extreme surface-heating event had produced Libyan glass 28.5 million years ago. Libyan glass is a flag-like translucent material that has adorned the crest of pharaohs. It takes shape in the desert each time a meteor finds itself in the Sahara. Yet, the stone that Baraka had found was angular, dark, lustrous, and intensely fractured. It was named by Fakia after the first woman philosopher, astronomer, and mathematician of Alexandria. What came next was a perennial test of celestial proportion. A hydration zone was subjected to X-ray diffraction, electron microscopy, Raman spectroscopy, and nuclear radiation. Each method sequentially evaluated cosmic suspects to the stone's origins. These findings revealed that, like most meteorites, the hydration zone was indeed composed of silicon and carbon. Its configuration of these elements and hydration matrix was unlike anything that had been before. But it contained only trace amounts of silicon and high volumes of incredibly rare carbon compounds called polyatomic hydrocarbons, or PAH. The PAH is an elemental component of interstellar dust, far older than the birth of the sun and its celestial mythology. They exist as a amorphous particle, marking the very beginning of science. Curiously, the dust that was found with the location had solidified into a cluster of diamond. To turn dust into diamond in the vast absence of phase requires heat and temperature elements and motions. A raw temperature that can be provided only by a particular kind of exploding supernova known as the 1A. The 1A occurs when two stars, having evolved the origin of eons, exhaust themselves on their celestial fire. This exhaustion is transformed and experiencing full on both ends, bringing their cosmic bodies crashing down to each other, and finally burst, capturing stars from space-time.
Questions? I can tell you how the game sort of works. Sorry, I just got lost to like life game again. Right. But yeah, no. One of the things that came out here while playing the game with multiple people is that because all the abilities, all the kind of movements, the camera, all of it can be controlled by everyone simultaneously. It's sort of like chess. You have it's sort of a game of complete knowledge. Where you have like everything available, every move available to you at the same time. What ends up happening, unlike chess, you're not trying to kill the other, your opponent, but you're trying to play together. What ends up happening is that while people were playing, and all this like multiple places, like with my friends back home, at the India Dev Conference in Hyderabad, in Geneva, is that people start forming their own ways of playing, of navigating this architectural space of of collapse. They do this by like so someone will take on the control of the camera, someone's going to take on the movement, someone's start going to control the abilities, and we start seeing this hive mind, this collective mind emerging through acts of surrender, right? And when you extend that to the game of constraints that we spoke about, thinking together with someone, it's not a game of victory, of like of trying to take as much as possible, but give, surrender yourself to the flow of the game. Yeah, that's all I got. You have questions? If you want to ask me how it did, how long it took me, I can answer those very quickly. It took me 2 years, and it's a solo project. It was a lot of fun, but I pulled my hair off for the entire.
When you look at collaborative, cooperative sort of game, it typically comes with a sense that it's so frustrating to play and oh, it's going to be so fun watching them struggle. It's like frustrating. So, if you want to just say,
and lots of outcome.
So, like, typically these kind of games, like, rely on the chaos of multiplayer games of the game. So, where did you sort of start and aim this idea of a cooperative game, which doesn't really live with that?
You're asking me why a particular game. This will reframe the question. Yeah. Do you understand it?
What?
So what led you to sort of down this game was like, you actually sort of approaching from a completely new angle of the cooperation, and there's so many more elements that don't sort of typically define like these sort of multiplayer co-op games in that setting.
Okay. So one reason was like, I was the only person making the game, so I was like, why not put everything I can do? Like, what if this is the only, the last project I get to do, with like this kind of funding or whatever, like, let's do everything. That was one. Also, I was like, learning Unreal while taking this, so every time I learn something, I try to like incorporate it. So, like, that was one. That was one of the reasons I wanted to throw everything at it. The cooperative aspect, particularly, was, on a conceptual level, I was just thinking, like, how do we think together? Can democratic thought as an idea of be something that can be shaped or can take place in on the level of thought itself, like not in this we go on, like the general elections are next month, right? We go there every 4 years, 5 years, and then like we cast a vote, get really. Can it happen on a native level? Can we be democratic here? Right? Okay. Does anyone know what the word for democracy is in here? Democracy को क्या बोलते हैं?
लोकतंत्र.
नहीं लोकतंत्र नहीं गणतंत्र. Right? गणतंत्र से बस बोलते हैं ना. Does anyone know what the first word means? Anyone? No? No? Yeah. I mean, so that is counting, clock, correction, but also ghosts. That's why Ganesh is the Lord of Ghosts, right? So seriously, anyways, just putting it out there, we're all ghosts and collapsing time. But yeah, another reason why I wanted to create this collective game of ghosts was, to kind of bring people to think together, to like, where do our minds really live? Is that even possible? Like, are we just completely closed off to each other? When you sort of speak to psychoanalysts, they say that the inner experience, the inner narration of the film is completely like there's no way of communicating that to the other. Like, I don't know what your dreams are, your memories are, your desires are, what makes you you, right? Like, the only way we can do this, like, can kind of make an attempt to kind of bridge that gap, just to acknowledge that, this thing that's playing out in front of us, bombardment on our senses, is actually happening and I'm not hallucinating and you're not hallucinating. Is that we have this thing called art, where we can show you a part of my nephew inner self, and then you can show me yours, and then so what do you do with that? Yeah. Anyway, that's all.
Thank you so much. And just to comment, today, National Plaza of Humanities story and film and games, I think this is a beautiful example of that. And I'm sort of excited to take when it comes out.
I could send you a copy. Email me. But another thing I was going to say is like I would urge every architect to to play games, make games, right? So you know what the word architect means, right? Architecton, that's where it comes from, right? Like master of the arts, like of all arts, above all the arts. Even an artist actually puts architects high above, right there. There's a reason for this because that power comes with like a lot of responsibility, right? Yeah. What is that responsibility, right? Like, to have that view, the bird's eye view, the view from above, is that we need to kind of work with every element available. And what game design allows you to do is take on the first thing that holds us back from creating anything, from creating buildings, cultures, whatever. And then what is that first thing? What is that one thing that both architects and sculptors are fighting constantly? Does anyone know? Well, gravity. Like, that's the whole thing that we keep struggling with. And in game design, you can have things flying. You can know where the armature is, where where the center of gravity is, where things will tilt, turn, and speed fun. And you can build architectures within architectures, right? So that's what I was trying to do with these portal gates. I mean, the entire sort of world that I kind of built with these, like, tendon blocks and thumbs and everything, turns on itself where you go through these gates. So they become these exit rooms and escape. Right. Any more questions?
I have a technical question. The first demo that you showed on the creator, listening to the sound that they take, how much more input can we give without external devices, or motion tracking system, because you did it on the system? without an external. I mean, there's already PlayStation who's commercialized the PlayStation ad, which you can actually add and then the game follows. Apart from speech, apart from music or sound, there is motion. How much more, and because we are exploring, how much more could we explore without any external devices to add on? The second is there is actually a possibility that without simulation, there is just some actually make right now, and you don't have to and you can actually without that creation, then you become the creation that is. And you without the execution, without the so the creation was not in the game, and it's an open space, it's a simulation that you have to run through, but you would be able to actually move through it. With the output just being on the screen, it's that possibility. Like you read the flavor, but not inside. Right now, with the possibility of a headset, I mean, Apple has done it quite well. Recent market, actually. So if there is that I don't even need to wear it, but just in real world, I could be able to support it. Is that possible?
Okay. I mean, this is I won't touch the own principle. I'll tell you why. I think it closes the fact to the universe. First, second one. And the second thing is, have you seen those Apple vision glasses? You look like Minion. What? Like, what this weird thing? One. And the second thing is, I feel art is a collective experience. Like, we all sort of encounter it together. Like, I mean, like the world is a collective experience, right? And the moment we close ourselves off to it, like, this dark corner that we have, where we keep scrolling like that, we close ourselves to that collective experience. So the idea is to kind of bring all of this to kind of give us programs. Give you an example, like, okay, so the idea here is like everyone knows that the goal, right? Like the goal is like an instrument that's perhaps one of the first instruments that was created in the Indian subcontinent. It's all of us from Harappa, and it's like being part of like over marriages, mayas, everywhere. Everyone trying to transfer a goal, whether you like it or not, right? And then the idea here was to get like this is an older version of Anpat. To get a program to dance to goals, because the post-human, the one that comes next, post-human is Punjabi, right? Hey, sorry. As I go on, the jokes get worse. So I'm saying to get me off stage. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one question. I was more interested in the workflow of auditing each year. And in that, what I feel when I'm working with FX file or STL matches, one of the biggest challenges when we have something in moving, the file is too heavy. Like, how do you deal with the scenarios of different types of objects with very complicated, more surface workflows? And when you have to get them into moving, is there any easy workflow that you have to deal with it?
Can I go? This unreal file is completely unoptimized. Completely unoptimized. Yeah, right. Like, sorry, I love the software, but it's also incredibly difficult to work with. The reason I'm showing you that is like I spent like a lot of time trying to get that frame rate over there. You know? I mean, it's going into like the eye at what 24 frames per second, going into 160. This is nothing like you have created on like older videos stuff. The reason for this, like, and you know, the reason why I want to just tell you that I spent a lot of time using this because, like, and one of the reasons why you asked me if I wanted to make a video game was that the problem with contemporary art is like, you know, I could just put like a banana with like a duct tape on a wall and call it like, write an essay about it and like, you know, pretend like this is the various commentary about like, you know, human civilization that you need to engage with, you know. But getting those 60 frames over there is incredibly hard. You know, this is like, I really want to challenge that, like, you know, the kind of nonsense that you can put with contemporary art, right? Like, this requires time, this requires knowing what you're doing, this requires, like, you know, putting yourself through long hours of math. And there's no adaptation. Anyone else?
Yes, so my question is about the sound recording. When the figure moves according to the sound. So when you try to form that sound, my question is when you said you broke it and then you associated it with different things like different notes. So is there a structure to it or is it intuitive or what is it like? When you associate it with the response, it's supposed to react to. How is it working your
the way the sound is sort of it's composing the song is I basically set together like an array, like I cut up all the entire composition into like parts. And then attach like an array to the limbs of the speaker. So every time like you know one of the limbs lands on the terrain, it fires a part of the song. It's kind of hard to stare over there because like you know the feature is like talking about things constantly. But the way it works is like you know the first note that kind of the first part of the array that like it finds in it triggers that. So when you have like two beats landing at the same time, it even starts singing two of these compositions together. Like two parts will be formed together. So two mukde saath mein aata hai, right? So you start hearing these like harmonies that start to create, like singing in multiple voices. And that happens rarely, but like you can hear that as well. Yeah. It's essentially an array that's kind of it's cycling through it's multiple arrays like we that's total observable. I can show you the code as well. Yeah.
So from last you I think we are seeing the so the two questions. So you say on the formulas maybe and about that Sundaram from the past. Where do you connect with this AI knowledge like what is the relation between the meaning that gates? It's like the of the epic volume sound and you have to find the way to represent you are. But what connects you to make like you are missing out to Mufra and all the related things. So what's the connection? And another question about the so you favor the Gandham, we didn't know the but in Marathi Gandham इसका meaning is like Gani Shivatma. which another means of the Ganat is both, right? Usme Jina. So can we explain again the like where do you take it from the Ganat? Yeah, so gun Ganat तो बोलते हैं gun जीव में जीना मतलब खुद में ही जीना. हाँ, so it's like that. So I didn't explain when you kind of put in your gun. So I believe there is the gun that how do you
So, like the basics of
so like when we are बोलते हैं इस मंत्र के पहले शब्द का गण का मतलब है जीवात्मा, दूसरे गण का मतलब है शिव और गणात यानी हृदय में और बुद्धि यानी देखो.
actually, you know, it's the
Yeah.
yeah, क्योंकि अगर हम एक तो ये जो conceptual और एक जो theological question आपने start में पूछी है बहुत interesting है तो मेरे को उसकी नहीं करेंगे but essentially who's faith आत्मा is like I mean what is the ghost? The ghost is like a spirit whose desire. This is from like fairy tales. A soul, a spirit is a desire to fulfill anyone. Essentially, इससे वो भटक रहा है. तो एक क्लास जो चाह दी वो खत्म नहीं होती. And like psychoanalytically also like like when you can like when you look at the way the ghost is sort of thought in psychoanalysis. That's really like a kind of conjuration of an unfulfilled desire. क्योंकि कुछ नहीं मिला इसलिए वो एक अलग तरीके से यूरोसिस अलग कर रहा है. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Okay. And the first question was what?
So like you are currently like Shastriya already like Mukhara and that music you given to the you are like so what do you like connecting to the like what made you connect that music to
Okay, so all of this, like I mean, if I'm pulling from certain mythologies or pulling from Sahej Rahal or from Kabir or from Nehru or anime, Vivian, all of these are they're all stories, and we're putting stories together, and like I mean, this is no different than what we're doing every day. I mean, like we tell ourselves stories every day. I'll give you an example. Like, say you're a parrot, right? What do you start doing? You start talking to yourself. Okay, you're going to be fine. You got this. Like we make it through. We end with something more difficult, challenging, things like that. Who is this person you're talking to? Who is talking to you in your head? It's a better, more capable, more charming, more intelligent, stronger version of yourself that you have created in your mind, right? I mean, this is what our minds are capable of. These are the kind of stories we can tell ourselves. And the idea then becomes that how do we, in returning to that song that Nehru spoke about, how do we tell better stories? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Hello. So first of all, both the projects were very interesting. And my question is, how long did it take you to make both of the projects? And did you do it alone or did you have to?
So yeah, I did it alone. The first program, the first program is kind of based on code that I had written in Unity and I kind of ported it over to Unreal. So a lot of that's something I've been doing since 2017. But the program itself took me about a year to make, and then the game took me about 2 years. Yeah. And it's a solo, both are solo projects. Like I mean, with Hans he's time, so it's for voice. But all the code, the program, the kind of modeling, the texturing, all of that, animation, all of that was there.
So the game, basically there is one creature that is controlled by 8 people, or there will be 8 creatures when you go to war.
No, there's one creature. So it's sort of like a it's a multiplayer game in the sense that everyone's controlling the same creature. So you can have up to 8 players, but then everyone's controlling the same creature. So it becomes a conversation that like, okay, which direction you want to move in, you want to go right, left, whatever, and then start talking to whoever's next to you, and then one compliment I got, for example, was it's great for couples therapy.
This question basically people control podcast, right? But is this character always playing against the computer, or can you have another user basically controlling another character so it's like interacting with this character?
Like, yeah, it's local, but it's like, as in you can't connect through the internet. Yeah, like you can only connect through, you can have one instance of the game, like on one machine, and 8 controllers, up to 8. Actually, it can take 16, but like, like then you have all sorts of tagging and all that. So I just say 8. And yeah, so you can have 8 people playing at the same time, but controlling one creature.
But it would be fun, right? If they could like connect with another character in the whole world, which is controlled by another people.
Yeah, it's fun for sure. But like see the thing is like with I'm actually scared of like programming for multiplayer games because has anyone played multiplayer games? Okay, multiplayer gaming communities are terrible. Like it's not only in the world. Also, the reason was, I wanted people to sort of encounter it in the same space,
Like sort of it's going against the ways of like we are and stuff, and putting people on the point. So that's the reason.
Thanks.
I have one. I wanted to know whether you've been very aesthetic for the picture. Like why is it sort of what are the particular references that you have, or are there particular meanings that are emergent in the way that the form is?
I mean, Rohan, you've already seen these, but yeah, like these are the kind of sculptures in it, and the idea behind all the programs was to kind of turn these into to play with them, like like, they're all toys to me. Like these kind of creatures that I made, like they're all. See, can I tell you a secret? One thing that I'm really inspired by is this. No, but see, the idea is like to create toys and like sometimes I get dancers to kind of use them as props. And then I used to do performances with them as well at some point, but now I think I performances. But so yeah, the idea was to kind of make toys with these features that like all things kind of shape. Yeah, that was very good.
Same question I was about the architecture. So as per my research on game industry, most of the people use each writing of architecture, the primary, secondary, and the landscape. So have you done research on the concept of what the architecture will be then? So there is always iconic building. Like in Assassin's Creed, there's always one iconic building. You go to that iconic building and then you see the game progressing.
Yeah.
Each and every game has, like example of Ghost of Tsushima, the Japanese game, Tsushima. So the game developer inspired by only the Tsushima. So when you heard about the story of Suchima, we started up designing the pitch, like what the story should be, how character should be involved in the architecture. So it was obviously that there is a gene that he was the only person somewhere. He lost his all hometown and the designer inspired by the architecture of Japan architecture. He began to start with how Jin should relate to his each and every one buildings where the team was his friend, and then we start with all the architecture. Have you created a piece of architecture, the world map? How did you started the world map? So every context of the game have inspiration or maybe architecture style to design a piece. Or even version, have you used a planet version have you used a what? Planet version in planet?
No, I haven't. Because Planet, again, even if you 5.3, a lot of the new features that Unreal has, they're not production ready. I mean, if you're working with Unreal, you can use things like Planet for if you're doing architectural visualization, because you can literally throw like something with millions of polygons on it, and it'll like it'll render it quite well. You can get 50 frames per second, but like I mean, there's a difference becomes like with office and with game design, or even with like office films where you're seeing they've been using films a lot nowadays, and game design is like. Game design, you need to get that, like, somehow you need to manage the 30 frames per second, constant. Otherwise, you're breaking even. And in fact, if you played some of the newer games that came out, like, Jedi Survivor, the ones that have been made with Unreal, the optimization is terrible. And the reason for that is like these newer features aren't production ready for games. You can definitely use them in, like, these other outcomes, like, for, say, if you want like grid lighting simulation for your office or for like film, it's perfect. But like it's not there yet for video games. The other way around that is like you make your lights and like you kind of like you kind of find your ways around it. There's like a lot. The LODs are like so you see like the LOD every like put like an night LODs for a given. Like so that kind of stuff you have to like create culling volumes so that I love the idea of culling volumes on a conceptual level so that it's not just a nerdy conversation we're having. A culling volume is basically this box that you have a game that hides everything that doesn't exist outside of the field of view, right? This is a fundamental question of philosophy, right? Does the world exist when you're not looking at it? Like, is the screen still there behind you? Right? Yeah. Is it? Okay, good. This is why we need other people, right? Like to reaffirm our version of reality, otherwise everything falls apart. Yeah, so and
for the pitch, how you architecture world map or the concept of architecture that will teach when you design the game, you're always trying to
so basically yes, like I mean the layout which map is actually it's a version of Darkroom, but like by or how. But yeah, no, also that was like one kind of image I had in my mind. Yeah, studying I know I mean I don't know how many of you played Counter-Strike, but like I used to have a clan at one point. So that's just one pattern of movement that's there in my game. So I was like, I should get around, let's design a pathway. But then I also wanted to create a version of the place that I grew up in, one hills. But then also what happened was like while I was kind of building this narrative about like neoliberal capitalism, I found out that the same sort of problems that like kind of or the neoliberal capitalism that we encounter are the same ones that you find in Eastern Europe. Like it kind of messes with people exactly the same way. Like, it kind of causes the same kind of fragmentation of reality, of like our self or our sense of community across the world. It doesn't transcend language, transcends class, caste, gender, it hits us in the same way. But that's not to say that it is something that can't be overcome. The fact that we share these kind of universities allows us to kind of form bonds that can even transcend the boundaries of language. I mean, I think that's what for me is the Julia Academy. Any more questions? Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, a very good presentation. My question is, what is the role and importance of this new generation of architects in data game development?
So, I mean, level design is architecture. In fact, ask not what the game industry can do for you, ask what you can do for them. What I mean is take these tools, take all of these systems that are on offer and turn them around, see that they bend, break, play with them, the toys. Don't think of them as elements that kind of get you a certain job with the architecture. Sure, that's fine, that's great, that's an aspiration. But at the same time, they're capable of so much more. You are capable of so much more. What I'm trying to say. Yeah. But then, yeah, I mean, if you really want to know, there's a huge requirement for just the kind of spatial sensibility that an architect can bring to a game world. I would say use that spatial sensibility that you have. It's the superpowers that you have, right? You can understand space, how people move through space and time. Sci-fi. Use that to create worlds of your own. Tell your own stories. Yeah.
Hi, Scott was saying that I public this. My question was to, being in this sort of game, the agency that the person is particularly has, it's quite fantastic. It's it's really liberating. Now, there are instances where, your game designer must have designed something that took a lot of effort and is pretty big. For example, the portal that you showed, right? I mean, you move to the side and you see the feature, but at one side it's not there. Now, when the person is playing, there are times when they tend to miss that feature, right? And we start getting disappointed, shit, they can't get anything, right? Do you then kind of tweak the game to make sure that that is seen or how do you negotiate between letting it go versus forcing them to see that? Right?
No. So that's actually something I wanted to avoid. And that's honestly true with even so I'll just give you an example. This was a show that I did in 22 at the CSMU Museum. Now, I mean, sort of it's this mythology that I'm creating, and it's it's sort of like Star Wars, that you haven't seen in episode 1 and then what's happening in episode 2. The thing is, if I were to now say that, say, if you didn't see the show, you won't get the game, that's very presumptuous of me, right? Because I'm sure people haven't seen the show and didn't catch everything on. The second thing, and I would urge everyone to do this with all the art that you encounter, whether it's a painting, sculpture, terracotta, right? A building, is that don't read the word text because the meaning is they just word salad. Don't read the word text. Next time you go to an art gallery, the moment you walk in, treat everything as a toy that you can play with in your head. Because sometimes those galleries don't like you to touch them. You play with them. Start making up stories around it. What does this mean? Where did it come from? Was it part of ritual? Was it then massive factors is discovered, and it's like every image that you encounter, every object you encounter, play with them, that's the kind of design philosophy, let's say, that I brought to the game as well, that if you were to miss something, and your friend will play later versus was to encounter it, you will have completely different experiences and stories to share. Like more stories are what I would like to teach. Yeah, that's the intent. So and it's not something not something novel. Honestly, a lot of games do this. Like when they play open world games. Your experience of say something like Elden Ring or Death Stranding, or even games like the path that you will take will be completely different from you. So that is player agency, you get to shape the story you're telling. And yeah, like that's what I was trying to create in the world. I know not get the theory also. So okay, it is. I'm going to really. I want to. The reason was so I haven't put it out yet because I got this solution which now lets me kind of build the game even more. So I want to add like more things to it. So I'm going to give it like a little more love and then maybe in a year or so. Okay. But the current moment is like ready. So if you can send me your email, I can mail it to you. You're an incredible audience. Thank you so much. So much fun when people like you.